Someone needs something from you. You already knew before they finished the sentence. There was a tell. The specific way they said your name, the pause before they asked, the slight apologetic tilt of the request. You've become very good at reading the approach. You can identify a favor coming from 3 conversational moves away. And you said yes. Not because you had the time, not because it was convenient, not because no one else could have done it. You said yes, because somewhere along the way, yes became the only answer that felt like you. The no lives in your body, you can feel the shape of it, the place where it would come from, but it never quite makes it to the surface. Instead, the yes arrives, automatic and smooth, and the person on the other side gets what they came for. And you go home with one more thing that belongs to someone else's life. You are the person people call. Not the most talented, not the most available, the most reliable. The one who follows through. The one who doesn't need to be chased, reminded, or thanked twice. The one who figures it out even when the instructions were incomplete and the timeline was unrealistic. They didn't have to explain why it mattered. You already made it matter. You always do. The question nobody has ever asked you, including you, is what that cost. You have a reputation. The reputation is accurate. You do show up. You don't drop things. You absorb the slack that other people leave behind, and you absorb it so quietly that most of them don't know there was slack to absorb. The reliability is real. The competence is real. But somewhere underneath the reputation is a person who has been waiting for decades to be asked what they actually want. And nobody asks, because you never seem to need anything. Because people who are always available for others give off a specific signal, a kind of self-sufficiency that reads as not requiring care. They assume you're fine. You have made it very easy to assume you are fine.
Here's where it started. At some point in your life, young enough that it shaped how you understood yourself, someone praised you for this, for being responsible, for handling it, for not falling apart when things got difficult or unclear. And they didn't have to ask you twice. You were the one they could count on. And the praise felt like something solid in a world that didn't have a lot of solid things in it. So you kept doing it, not because someone asked, because it was the first time you knew exactly who you were. You found the role before you found yourself. And the role felt like safety, like recognition, like finally being legible to the people around you. Being needed is a very particular kind of being seen. When someone calls you, they have chosen you. When you come through, they confirm the choice. There's a logic to it that felt, at 12 or 17 or 23, like belonging. The problem is what you left behind while you were building the reputation. The opinions you kept quiet because they would have complicated the situation. The preferences you didn't voice because it wasn't the right time. The things you wanted that you talked yourself out of before the wanting was even fully formed. Because wanting things requires a kind of self-centeredness that the role you'd built had no room for. Reliable people are not supposed to be difficult. Reliable people do not make it about themselves. You learned to need less, and you called it maturity. You stopped expecting reciprocity, not because you processed it and let it go, because you stopped noticing the absence. You reorganized your inner world so that giving didn't require receiving. You built a self that ran on the satisfaction of being useful. And it worked, in the way that all systems designed to require as little maintenance as possible work. You kept going. You didn't break down. You did not become a problem for anyone. You just slowly became less of a person and more of a function. And the world rewarded you for it every single time.
Ask yourself something simple. What do you actually like? Not what you're good at. Not what you do for people. Not what you've agreed to enjoy because it made something easier. The restaurant that always works for the group. The plans that fit around everyone else's schedules. The version of your own preferences that has been negotiated down so many times you can't find the original. What do you like? Take a moment. Actually try. If you found out harder than you expected, if the answer came out thin or borrowed or vague, or if you notice that most of your examples involve doing something for someone else, that is the data.
You have been so available for other people's lives that you ran out of room for your own. It happened incrementally. There was no single moment of surrender. There were 1,000 small moments where someone else's need was more immediate than your preference, and you made the reasonable, generous choice. And then you made it again and again. And now, the reasonable, generous choice is the only mode you know how to operate in. The other mode, the one where you know what you want and say it clearly and expect it to matter, that mode has atrophied from disuse. You have opinions, but you hold them lightly enough that they dissolve under any pressure. You have preferences, but you've pre-negotiated them down before the conversation starts. You have a self, but it has been so consistently organized around other people's comfort that it only shows up when no one is watching. You haven't lost yourself. You've just been leaving yourself in the car. Every time you walk into a room where someone needs something, you set down the version of you that has wants and edges and inconvenient feelings, and you pick up the version that is useful, flexible, available. It's so fast you don't feel the transition anymore. The other version just waits. The problem is, you keep forgetting to go back for it. There is a version of you that existed before the reputation, before you were the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who handles it. You were just a person with odd enthusiasms and unformed opinions and things you wanted that had nothing to do with being useful. You had a specific kind of energy for particular things, subjects that pulled your attention without justification, parts of the world that interested you for no reason you could easily explain. Can you still find them? Or has the role been running so long that you can't distinguish between what you actually care about and what you've become competent at? Because those are not the same thing. Competence accretes. You get good at what you do repeatedly, irrespective of whether it feeds you. And you have been doing this, being this, for long enough that the difference between who you are and what you do has become difficult to locate. The role is not you. It is the costume you put on so early that you forgot you were wearing it. There is a ghost in this story. It's not a past version haunting the present. It's the opposite. The present version is the ghost, the one who moves through other people's needs without quite landing in their own life, the one who is there for every important moment in someone else's story and somehow never quite arrives as the main character in their own. You've been waiting for permission, to want things, to take up space, to have a bad day that someone else has to accommodate, to be inconvenient in the way that people who know they matter are inconvenient, to be difficult in the way that people with a self are sometimes difficult. The permission was never coming because you made yourself so easy to have around that no one thought you needed it.
This did not come from nowhere. There was something unstable in the early environment. Not necessarily dramatic. Sometimes it was quiet. A parent who needed managing. A household where someone always had to be the adult, and you were the one with the steadiest hands. A sibling who drew the emotional energy in the room and left you to hold everything else together. A family system that ran on the implicit understanding that you were the one that wouldn't require anything extra. Or maybe it was simpler. Maybe the reliable version of you just got so much more approval than the other versions that you learned to lead with it. Maybe the approval felt like love, and you made the reasonable calculation that a child makes, I will be the thing that gets the love. The strategy worked. That part always goes unacknowledged. It actually worked. You were not wrong to build this. You built it in a context where it was the correct adaptation. You read the room. You found the role that kept things stable. You gave people what they needed, and in return, you got security, recognition, a place in the structure. The reliable one always has a place. The reliable one is never disposable. But you are not in that room anymore. The adults you were managing are not in the house. The sibling is not drawing all the oxygen. The system that required you to be the constant has changed, and you kept running the old code. You kept making yourself available in the old way. You kept preemptively shrinking to fit the role, because some part of you still believes, without examining it, that the role is what makes you worth keeping. You made yourself necessary because you were not sure you were enough. And the terrible irony is that you are surrounded by people who love the version of you that shows up for them, who would miss you if you disappeared, who count on you in the way that people count on things they assume will always be there. They just have no idea who you are underneath the reliability, and neither quite do you.
Here is what it has cost. The friendships that never reached past a certain depth, because the person you brought to them was the useful version, the one who listens, who supports, who asks the good questions and holds the space, the one who doesn't bring their own mess into the room. You became important to people who don't quite know you, and there is a specific loneliness in that has no clean name. The decisions you made by default, because you were so practiced at organizing around other people's needs, that when it came to your own life, where to live, what work to do, what kind of relationship to build, you approached it the same way. You figured out what was reasonable, what was workable, what made things easiest for everyone involved, and you called the thing that was left your life. You have optimized for everyone's comfort, except the one person whose comfort you are actually responsible for. The identity that never fully formed, because you built a self out of function, out of what you do for people, what you can be counted on for, what role you fill in any given room, rather than out of what you actually are when nobody needs anything. That self is still there, underneath the reliability, under the reputation, under the decades of accumulated usefulness. It is waiting. It has been waiting. It has just never been given the first word. Look at what everyone says about you. Dependable, solid, always there, doesn't let you down, the one you call, the person who comes through. Every word of it is true. Every word of it cost you something you cannot get back from the person who spent it. The appreciation is real. The love is real. But you are tired of being loved for your function. You want someone to be late for you, to rearrange their schedule, to put down what they're doing because you called. You want to take up the kind of space that you have spent your entire adult life making sure you never took. You thought that being needed was the same as being loved. They are not the same. Being loved means someone stays even when you stop performing. Go find out if that's true.